Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Fan Forum for this 18-19 season. First of all, a big thanks again to the Saltbox for hosting us for the second year. It's a great playoff venue. We have a star-studied panel today, eager to answer all of your questions. The more testing, the better. If I go from the far end, only because I've just learned how to pronounce his team name, we have the DEL2 Coach of the Year, GB Assistant Coach, Nottingham Panthers legend, Vice Versa Coach, Cory Neilson. That's a team name I'm never saying again. To Cory's right, we have the man who's given GP hockey a lot to dream about and a great forthcoming event where we go up with the cream of the crop of world ice hockey. It's the Glasgow Clan coach and GB national coach, Mr. Pete Russell. And then we have the man who did so much as a player in Hull, as a coach in Manchester, and now in Dundee. My word, you love a challenge, Omar, don't you? But you do it fantastically wherever you are. The GM and coach of the Dundee Stars, Mr. Omar Pacha. And finally, the man immediately to my left, the Director of Hockey Operations. I'm never quite sure what his title is. Mr. Cardiff Devils, I suppose, and also representing the Elite League board here today, Todd Kelman. As ever, guys, this event is really what you want to make of it. The floor is open for you guys to ask questions. I am going to ask the first one. Last year, I served up a softball to these guys. We're just going to clear DOPS up straight away because I imagine 80% of you in the room want to ask something about DOPS. So let's have a good 10, 15 minutes on DOPS. Mr. Todd Kelman, how do you feel DOPS has gone this year in the Elite League? I thought Mike Hicks wrote a good program article yesterday about the expertise he gets the call on from around the world of hockey. We sometimes get in football the talk of big club favoritism. Is that something you see in the league? How do you think DOPS has gone and continues to develop in the Elite League? I think Omar Pacha might have a few things to say on this.
I think me and Pacha had this conversation at 3 in the morning on Friday night. So, like you, when I see a DOPS decision, sometimes I think, oh, that's the right decision. Other ones, I think, is a terrible decision. I'm going to start with a controversial one. Evan Mosey getting knocked out by Riesling. If you're wearing a Panthers jersey, you're saying, oh, it's a clean hit. If you're wearing a Devils jersey, you're saying it's the worst hit you've ever seen. It's tough, right? Because I thought it was a hit to the head. I think hockey is very different nowadays than maybe 10 years ago. It is always the responsibility of the player making the hit to not make an illegal check. It used to not be like that. It used to be kind of like, as a defenseman, Cory can attest to this, your eyes would light up when you'd see a guy with his head down with the puck between his legs, because you're just like, I'm just going to run this over. Sorry. There are children. Sorry.
That's a good start.
Good start. No F-bombs. You told me no F-bombs. But, so I think DOPS now, the 2 years we've had Lyle doing it and the PSG, I think we've had a much improved DOPS than we had years ago. I think they're going in the right direction. They're never going to satisfy everyone. Everyone's going to, if it goes against your team, you're always going to be pissed off. But I think overall they're doing a pretty good job.
Okay. Omar, that conversation at 1 a.m. in the morning on Friday, did you have a different viewpoint at all? You are a guy who, in Dundee and a number of clubs around the league, if there's injuries and suspensions, you will have a short bench. That will affect your season. Therefore, a DOPS decision can have a big effect on your season. How do you think it's gone this year?
Well, to go back to what Todd said, listen, overall, I think there's always room for improvement, right? There's always room that every league wants to improve in certain areas. For me, my personal opinion, I thought they were okay. There was obviously decisions that went one way, went the other, but that's, again, like he just said about that hit. One group of fans says this, the other group of fans says that. So you know what? Who's right, who's wrong? Sometimes it's like that fine edge that, you know, it's so hard to determine. So it's not an easy job. I think the big thing for me, if you ask me about DOPS, is listen, it's not that bad. It can be better again, but it still has to improve. Next year it has to take another step, though. It has to take another step in improvement. For me, it's more about the goals, and that was my big thing this year. Obviously, cost us directly, so not necessarily directly involved with DOPS, but again, with, I guess, goes back goal line technology, refereeing, and all that. So, but as long as you see improvement in the league, the problem I think is right now you're getting the quality of players that come in this league. Remember, these guys come from the AHL, NHL, top leagues in Europe, right? And they come and, you know, it's a fast-paced game now. It's way faster than I was even 6 years ago. So sometimes these decisions, it's not easy to make, you know? So when you're in a position of power, as everybody would know, you're always going to get controversy, whatever you do. So I guess as long as I see, well, personally speaking, I see improvement next year, I think at least it will go in the right direction.
Thank you, Omar. Pete, Cory, I'm not ignoring you, but I just want to come back to Todd for one, if I may, very quickly. And you're gonna swear at me this time. But I see it all the time on social media, so I just want to get an honest answer from you, if I may. Is it possible for Todd Kelman, Neil Black, Tony Smith to influence the decision of DOPS?
Absolutely. Seriously, you guys.
We all knew it. We all knew it.
No, I think people think we have an influence over DOPS or we have an influence on this kind of stuff. The interesting thing that we don't. We have no influence. I think people call me and say, "Oh, why did you help out with that decision?" I don't. I don't get involved at all, and none of the owners do. I think they'd like to, because we, just like all of you guys, when we go to a board meeting, guys will pull out their computers and be like, "Can you believe this was called for this?" And Gary will argue with me about situations, and Fife will argue with Dundee about situations. It happens all the time. I think what Omar touched on, and I think Pete will probably cover it too, the most important thing in hockey is goals, right? So I think it's more important to get the goals right than it is, like DOPS are going to be, it's a tough decision, but we have to get goal line technology and refereeing to be perfect. Like the goal line technology in this day and age, we should all have enough cameras that we can see if a goal went in. And the goal line technology we put in 5 years ago isn't fit for purpose anymore. Dundee had a goal go in that they actually put out on social media that it went in, but they don't have that camera for their goal line technology. So what I would say is all the teams that have webcasts have better goal line technology than the goal line technology used by the refs. So we should use the webcasting cameras to make a decision, because why would you let the people at home watching know if it was a goal, and then you're reliant on this camera in the ceiling that's kind of a bit shaky and a bit out of focus to make a decision. So the goals are the most important thing. When you touch on referees, if the league has gone like this over the last 6-7 years, the referees, we're still going with all the same referees, and you can't get mad when, if this league was all British players, I don't think we'd have 7,000 people here this weekend. I really don't. I love the British players. I think they're a big part of our game, but when hockey was, the level of hockey would just be like this, none of these guys would be coaching here. They'd be coaching somewhere else, because they would have never stuck around to coach in this league. And I think the import level goes up and up, and the quality of players go up and up, and you've got 4-line hockey, thanks to the guy in the end who started the 4-line hockey and screwed up all of our businesses because of it. But 4-line hockey, great imports, 14 imports, the hockey quality is going up and up. We need to make sure that we're doing what we can, investing in referees so the referees can improve. And that might mean bringing in 2 or 3 foreign referees to help improve it, because that's how British players have gotten better over the years, by playing with more imports. So maybe it's time to look at import referees for a couple years. But for me, the refereeing is, and the goal line technology is like #1 priorities for our league.
I'm just going to say before we go on, Omar Pacha's got a great poker face, isn't he? You can't tell what he's thinking at any stage. Pete and Cory, let's change the question a little bit then to referees, and only because I guess you get exposure to referees at maybe a slightly wider environment, World Championships now, DEL2. I guess simple question, where is the standard of refereeing in this country compared to what you see elsewhere? Just an easy one to start with, Pete. Just to confirm, Pete's laughing, but that comment wasn't associated with the GP coach.
Yeah, I think the refereeing's pretty random, probably. I think, but I think, in life, everywhere you go, people speak different and people live different, and I think our refereeing is probably a map of that structure. Some places you go, it's pretty good. Some places you go, it's reckless. And I think it's you'll never always get the same, but the biggest thing that Cory will tell you as well is when you go to World Championships, it's the same across the board. You know, they call it as it is, and the funny thing is, for all the calls they make, the last playoff game against Guildford was probably the best free-flowing game we had all season, and they put the whistle in the pocket, and I think that might be a testament to DOPS, though, to be honest, to go back to it, because when I used to watch this team to pick the national team, there was a lot of dirty stuff going on, there was a lot of fighting, there was a lot of grabbing and clutching, and when they can get to a big game and then let it go, like last night's game, Belfast-Guildford, there was one bad call at the end when they tried to even the game up a little bit, because they like to do that over here, the referees, they like to give somebody a chance, and that kind of happened there, but it's I thought that game was to be honest, is a testament to where the league's gone, even if good referees can control a game like that, because the players should get to decide it, and I think that's the most important thing. But the refereeing, as Todd says, probably isn't improved to the level that the league has, but that's the same for the players. There's the British guys had to up the level, and some of them did, and some of them are trying to, and the referees have to do that now. I think it's that simple. I think it's, but that's up to people like Todd that own teams to get some money out and try and do something to fix that, and I'm sure they want to.
There we go. So you heard it here. Todd Kelman's getting the money out. Cory. Cory, so yeah, just a straight comparison. You've gone from Elite League into DEL2. Is there high standards of refereeing? Is consistency the issue? What's your take on what you've seen over the last 2 years?
Well, first off, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for the, Yeah, I'm reading a speech here. I'd just like to thank Pete. First off, in the DL2, we're using the second crop of referees, the best referees in the country referee the DEL. So, our refs are pigeons as well. They don't do a very good job. The linesmen are hopeless, which is quite indicative of the Elite League, if I'm honest. And I mean, we all criticize officials. It's just a human nature because it's a tough job, but things happen so fast, and they are trying their best. So I think just making sure that they have the tools to get better and do their job effectively. I think, I'm looking at my notes here because over the last 3 years I was coaching in Nottingham. I just wanted to put some numbers together and just figure out what was going on, because I found when my team got penalties, I was always like, yeah, that's a penalty, yeah, of course it is. I never ever had a problem taking penalties. It happens, it's part of the game. But my problem is never getting power plays. And there's gonna be a big argument here. But it is 100% true, just so you know, and I am not invested in this league right now at all. It's 100% true if you're a big club, you don't get power plays. It's 100% true that if you roll into Fife, you're getting 100% true. Okay, and Fife people, that's not me bitching, that's just a fact, because you guys are awesome at going, way, and then they put their arms up. So, same thing in Coventry, great job, Coventry, and Nottingham bring their pillows to the game. But if we just, I think if everybody kind of, it was the same, and the fan influence in some of those buildings is really amazing.
This is a terrible situation.
I'm looking for guidance. Am I moderating this, Luke? You're we've got a good editing job going on, haven't we? Yeah, we go. Please continue. No, let's be honest. Let's go for it.
No, that's good. That's enough.
Okay. No, I love this. This is what a fans forum should be. So as you've seen, you have 4 guys up here today who will give you very, very honest answers in sometimes graphic terms. So I throw it open to the floor. Who's got some questions? Gentleman down the front.
One of the things a couple of years ago, when you had like a fan forum, you did like videos after, not fan forum, the EIHL board meetings, yeah? You did like a video afterwards to kind of talk about what you talked about. You had two great guys who were managing the Twitter account who you can interact with and ask questions, and they could get back to you to some degree. It just seems now that the league's really closed up. You have these meetings, you don't know what's discussed. You go on Twitter and you ask questions to the official Twitter account, and there's just silence. And I've seen quite a lot of tweets over the last few weeks, people criticising it, and just the lack of transparency, the lack of honesty. Why is it that you're closing up?
Okay, so the question from the gentleman at the front was largely regarding the communication and Elite League board meetings specifically, feedback from those on decisions being made, engagements that fans can have. I suppose in a general sense, just transparency of decision making. Okay.
I'll ask. Okay, so I'll compare it in like a business. If you have a business or a staff meeting or a board meeting, like I don't go back to my players and tell me what me and the owners talked about, finances and stuff. Like, a lot of it's pretty boring. Like, especially this year, a lot of it was finance based, right? So there's not always an update to give. And I agree. Like, we used to do we used to film after the meetings, but maybe it's just maybe a summary online. But a lot of meetings, we meet once a month, and I would say 80% of the meeting is, okay, where are we at with finances? How are ticket sales going for this? What's the plan for this? Like, we could give an update and be like, okay, well, we talked about finances for 2 hours. We talked about Milton Keynes is struggling. What can we do to make sure that they get through the season? The Challenge Cup's in Cardiff this year. Where are we at with that? Where are we at with playoff tickets? That's kind of the meeting, right? Like, because and then we have a commercial report from the guys that do the commercial side, and then we have a head of hockey operations report. And I guess it's pretty mundane. Like, a lot of times you finish the meeting, you're like, well, we could have probably done that on a conference call because there was nothing controversial, which is a good thing, because it used to be 10 years ago, it was like arguments over so-and-so hasn't paid their fees, these guys don't have any money, team's about to fold, blah, 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 blah. But now it sort of just ticks over. And I don't think, I'm not a big guy on updating people in my own organization unless they need to be updated, right? And so I also think that sometimes, because of social media, there's this belief by the fan base that we have to tell you everything related to I've asked about the Milton Keynes situation numerous times on Twitter. Why haven't they answered me? Because it's a confidential discussion that we don't want to maybe talk to the fans about, right? And so you got to understand there's a bit of privacy from the board side of things. If something was coming up, like we were saying, we're thinking about going back to 4-on-4 overtime instead of 3-on-3 overtime, that's probably something we'd update you about. And I think after the next board meeting, when we talk about league structure, with Milton Keynes gone, it's a 10-team team. What are we going to do with the Challenge Cup? What are we going to do with the league structure? How many games? Because everyone's wondering, I bought a season ticket for 28 games or 32 games. What does that cover? All the questions you have, and you're probably asking, but we don't know yet because we haven't discussed it, So,
just briefly, Todd, while you've got the mic in your hand, with regards to that or associated to that, the league did make 2 full-time appointments this year, I guess, in Mike Hicks and Lucas, the media PR guy. That's a step forward?
I think so. So Mike Hicks is head of hockey operations, which is good because it's removed from the board, because I'm a big believer that the 10 people or 11 people this year in the board meeting should not be involved in hockey decisions. Like, it shouldn't be up to us to decide the playing format for the playoffs in overtime. It should be like a set rule put out by someone independent that just dictates stuff, and he does a pretty good job of that. And I think that's just going to get better and better. Luke, who does the media now, you're talking about, there's been silence on Twitter with some questions. He's the best I've seen at it, because he will literally come to us and be like, I've got this question 10 times. What should I say? Because the official policy is this, but I don't know what to say. So we'll ask the questions. He'll respond to a lot of stuff. But if you look at our social media output on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, it's gone through the roof the last probably 6 months. And the numbers prove that. I think we have better interaction with video, showing the goals of the week, that kind of thing. So I'm very, very happy with the job he's done. And so a bit of silence because he's not answering questions. There we go. A bit of silence on not answering specific questions is okay from my point of view.
Okay, but good questions to kick us off. Thank you, sir. Anybody? Yes, gentleman in the front.
Delay a game penalty. Is it sensible? Is it working?
Worst penalty in hockey, besides if you lose your helmet and you get a penalty for illegal equipment. That's the stupidest penalty. Delay of game's the second stupidest, but you can ask one of these guys. Maybe something else. Maybe that's enough for that question.
That's okay. Straight answer, but okay. Gentleman on the balcony.
It's for Todd. The League Cup in Wales, you didn't manage to fill the stadium. Why about bringing it up to Braehead, putting it with the Glasgow Clans Arena, perfect arena. Scotland get nothing. We seem to get missed out quite a lot, but I think we should get a shot at the League Cup up there.
It's an interesting question in the sense, and I've got to bring the street guys back in a minute, so no, Todd, you go, and then we'll don't worry, I've got plenty lined up for them. But it's interesting, the Devils didn't make the Challenge Cup final this year. I know you bid for it. First of all, was that a business success or not for you and the rink? And is it an open bidding policy? Can any team look to bid for a Challenge Cup final?
So basically, a few years ago, and maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we decided that we wanted to do a one-game final for the Challenge Cup. The plan was nobody was supposed to play on that weekend, right? It was supposed to be the Challenge Cup weekend. But then inevitably, other teams are like, I don't want to miss a weekend of hockey, so they schedule games in, they can cancel games, whatever. But that Sunday is Challenge Cup Sunday, right? So we decided one-game final is better than a two-legged final, which I totally agree with. I think playing one big game is way more interesting than having a two-legged final. So we just make that decision. They said, where should we host it? And we hosted it in Sheffield the first couple years. Big success the first year because Sheffield were in it, and they sold umpteen tickets to Sheffield fans. We played them. Next year it was us in Nottingham. Not so good because not a lot of Sheffield fans want to see Nottingham win a cup, right? So there's probably 2,000 or 3,000 from Nottingham, probably 1,000 from Cardiff that year. Still 4,000 people watching a cup final in a neutral venue. Comes to Cardiff this year. At the beginning of the year, I said, the only scenario I don't want is Guildford and Belfast. Literally, that was the only scenario I didn't want. Because Belfast, it's hard to know, because you guys at least would travel from the mainland. Like, Belfast can only fly a certain amount of people over on a Sunday, right? Like, the most they can probably bring is about 600. Guildford, I thought maybe they'd bring 600, 700. Guildford ended up bringing about 1,000, and Belfast probably brought 1,000, and there was a few neutrals. So 2,000 people for us, it was fine. We covered our costs. We made a lot on the bar because Northern Irish people like to drink a lot. So it was okay. But the process for that is after Sheffield hosted it for 2 years, they just said, well, it's not a success because the rent in Sheffield was so high, it didn't really work. The league didn't make a lot of money. So I said, I will buy the Challenge Cup for X amount to host it in Cardiff for 2 years. And that's what we did. So
any team can do that?
Any team can bid. And Braehead were going to host it, and then they decided not to. So it's not a matter of the league deciding where to put it. It's deciding if your venue won. I think if it had been in Braehead this year, I think it might have been more of a disaster as far as crowds, because I don't think you can say they'd all take the ferry over, but Belfast are still going to only bring 1,500, and Guildford would have brought 500 at the most, all the way up to Braehead. I would love to see a cup final in Braehead, but there's logistics. Like, Braehead's rent is very high, Cardiff's is very low, right? So for the league, there's a certain amount of money the league has to make from an event like that, and it did this year. So.
Thank you for your question, sir. Appreciate it. Just something, and I would like to bring the all four guys into this, and this is more of a hockey education thing. We've got 4 defensemen up. Pete, you were a defenseman, weren't you, in your day? No, you were a forward, were you? You were a terrible goalie. You were a terrible goalie. I should know that. Not terrible. You were a goalie. Okay, so we got 3 defensemen and a goalie. Todd mentioned a play earlier, and guys, I don't know whether you saw it, particularly you, Cory, but the Riesling hit on Mosey earlier this year. Now I'm one of those, and I hold my hands up. When I'm not neutral, I follow the Cardiff Devils. I'm one of the Cardiff Devils fans, probably only one, who wasn't sold on it being a hit to the head. Okay, and Todd will argue with me that afterwards. But my question, and the question at the time would have been, as a defenseman, you've got a guy, Evan Mosey, who's one of the best skaters in the league. If he gets through there on that play, he's one-on-one with the netminder, possibly scores. Let's just say the defenseman doesn't make that hit there, because I completely get where Todd's coming from. The game has changed. But he goes with a poke check instead. Mosey scores. The the defenseman comes back to the bench.
Like you did last night, right?
Like it happened a few times last night. But I guess, Cory, go back 12 months, you're coach of Nottingham, your defenseman doesn't make the hit, and Mosey scores the goal. What do you say to that defenseman when he comes to the bench, and how in the modern game do you defend that play?
It's just a very difficult thing. We come from different eras, like Todd and I played, where people were still smashing each other over the head with sticks. And it's, back in the day, that would have been a perfectly fine collision. When I looked at the hit, I watched I think it was on YouTube, right? I watched it, obviously. I had my little Panther jersey on, watching it. It was cool. Saw the hit, and I thought, yeah, it's a great hit. It was a great hit. But the fact is now, if in fact he did make contact with his head, which I'll get to, that's not a clean hit anymore. You can't do it. So how do you defend it? You basically have to get in the way. You have to have body position. Your gap has to be better. But also there's just no emphasis on on the puck carrier anymore. I think that we lose that. Like, I think if a puck carrier has the puck and he puts himself in a compromised position at the last minute, it's awful tough when you're committed to coming in for a hit and someone drops him. So there's a lot of viewpoints to look at it. There's also another angle on the video. Like Strack showed me another angle of it, and it's like primary contact. It was actually shoulder, but still, because it's so gray, because there's an injury. I think it was a fine suspension call, but it's just tough. It's.
But you as a coach, so your defenseman thinks about player safety and doesn't make the hit, but he was coming in, he didn't have the skating lane necessarily on Mosey to get in there and get body position and what have you. Mosey scores the goal. What's your reaction on the bench?
I'd rather him take the suspension. Yeah, and I know that's probably kind of archaic, but at the end of the day, it's these are split-second decisions that guys have to make, and your job is to not let them score a goal. And like I pushed my mom down the stairs to win a game. Like that's how we were brought up. Yeah. The kids these days aren't the same. Like last night when the game got out of control. Like if that was back when I played, even when I played, I was kind of a puss. But like I would have done something. I would have smashed my stick over somebody or tried to create some energy or get in a fight. But there isn't. Kids are different. I had a kid a couple years ago on our team who asked me how I can't get into a fight. He's like, there's not much fighting. Nobody will fight me. I'm like, it's pretty easy. You just punch somebody in the face. You just punch them in the face, and then you're in a fight. It's the simplest thing in the world. Like, I just go in the. But what's that?
Didn't work for Fitzy. It's. Okay, thank you to Cory for that. And your mum's okay, yeah? She's recovered from the falling down? Yeah, okay. Just same questions to all three. In terms of where we are in hockey at the moment, how do you defend that play?
I think sometimes a player puts himself in that position. Mosey was brave and cut through on his forehand, and Rislin came off the blind side, and I don't think he tried to take his head off, but he's a big guy, and he's seen the hit on Venus as well earlier in the year, and he can open a nice hit, and I love Evan Mosey. Do you know what I mean? He's a great guy. He's played for us, and if he cuts in there and he's looking the other way, and it was a 1-2 situation anyway. So there's always a chance you got to remember that other guy's going to step up on him. But I think the problem is these guys are so strong these days. The hockey's changed physically because they're athletes now, a lot of them, and they're stronger. So if they make a big contact, there's probably going to be more of a chance of an injury because the equipment's harder now. There's plastic everywhere on things, and I think that makes a difference. But you'd be wanting them to block out. If he stood off like last night, he comes and he walks the goalie and puts it in. So I don't think it was he got the concussion, which you don't want, but he's back now and he's good. But I don't think it was a 5-game ban. No, I don't.
Okay. Appreciate the honesty again from Cory and Pete. So Omar and Todd, not that I'm decrying your physicality, but maybe you were more offensive defensemen. So Omar, how would you have defended that play?
I don't know. I mean, maybe Cory's going to disagree. I'm all about, obviously I'm all about contact, but I'm all more about speed. I love speed. All my teams, I want fast skaters. And I would have preferred, I wouldn't have taken a 6-game suspension because as a team, we can't afford that. Like, I can't get a guy that's out 6 games. I mean, the contact, I don't think, like Pete said, and I think everybody said that maybe it wasn't a long-term ban, but if he got the puck, for example, rather than smash a guy and kill him, I would have been as happy. So I'm not like, listen, I might be the P word because I don't swear me, but I'd rather play to get the puck. I'd rather get the puck, and all the body contact's great, but obviously you never want to see anybody get hurt, and you want to make sure that you're not putting yourself in dangerous positions for penalties and things like that. But listen, at the same time, I mean, like Cory said, like they brought up these guys when they were younger to smash guys. Like if a guy cuts across the ice, you're taught to do that. So it's kind of hard to say, all right, change your game right now. Like if the guy's been doing that for repetitive years and years and years. So it is a fine line, for the shoulder to the head. Now it's a big hit. Now it's a fine line. If the guy gets hurt, now how do we react? It might have been a great hit, but if he gets hurt, now your team is going to obviously outcry because there's an injury. Well, we lose our guy 5-6 games a month. What's going to happen? It should have been a suspension. So that's another gray area, I think. For me, as I said, personally, I would have liked to see him get the puck rather than kill the guy and get a suspension. But again, I mean, some people are different, some coaches are different, and it's always entertaining, big hits, but I think the timing is something now that you have to be very, very careful in all situations.
Thank you. Todd, I guess I'll reframe the question slightly for you because I know your view on it. If it had been a guy who got injured on a different team that wasn't the Cardiff Devils, would you have had a different view of the hit?
Probably not. Head or check to the head. I don't know because I haven't seen the other angle. I just saw Mosey the next day with like a shoulder pad mark on his face and 2 black eyes. And I also know that Mosey was out 4 weeks longer than Rissling was out. So we had to fly him across the world to a concussion specialist because he was sitting in a dark room with a cloth over his face. So something happened. It must have been kind of bad. But I don't know. I think you have to look at everything. You have to look at the situation. Rissling has been suspended 3 times this year. He's made some questionable hits. I watch him and I think he's a great player. I genuinely do. But it's a different game. Like, I mean, it's always the player's hit. And when you're watching the Dops video, you're like, as if he can think in that split second. Like, you can slow down a video and be like this, and then it's not like the guy's gonna all of a sudden and hug the guy and all of a sudden like just block him out. Like it's a natural thing. You're gonna run into a guy and you gotta kind of take the good with the bad. And unfortunately, like, it's not like we thought, oh man, Rissling started that game because he wanted to knock out Evan Mosey because he's a great player. It just happens in that situation. And I find that back-checking play, and we've seen it a lot this year, where a guy's back-checking and a guy's cutting across the middle, and it's 10 years ago, it's a great open ice hit, and it's a suspension now. It just is. Like, it just, and every time it happens, you're like, wow. Like, I mean, it happened to us. Benevolio hit someone this year and did he get a 1-game or 2 or 3 game ban? I don't know.
Yeah, 3.
And he said, I can't believe that's a suspension. I'm like, that's 100% a suspension. It's exactly like this hit and this hit and this hit. And coaches can break it down, and we see everything through, red colored glasses, and they see it through gold colored glasses. But I don't know. I think it's a changing game. And I know a lot of fans say the physicality's not there, and it is there. The physicality in hockey is there, and like, I mean, I'm a big believer that I like speed and skill. I like seeing the speed, the fast, skilled players performing. I'd rather see Evan Mosey go end to end and score a goal than see a fight. And some of you guys don't believe me, or a big hit, but like, the guys in this league, the highest paid guys, the guys that earn your money, are no longer the tough guys. For years, the tough guys made way more money than the rest of us. They really did. Barry Nightcar probably made more money than, I don't know, give me an example, I don't know. But like in Belfast, when I played, Paxton Schulte was always the man, right? And then it's evolved. Like, I would rather see Joey Martin playing every game than sitting at home with a concussion and saying, Kevin Noble or Rissling made a great hit. Now Joey Martin, my star player, is out for 2 months. I think we have to. The hockey worldwide has changed to the point where you want your skilled players to perform, right? Like, you can go through the NHL. Like, would you rather see Sidney Crosby not playing now because 5 years ago he got a concussion, and hockey could have been clutch and grab, or seeing small guys that perform every night. Hockey is so much fun to watch now at every level, and I think our league speed and skill is like, why do you think the national team is in Pool A? Because they hooked and grabbed and held and fought? No, it's because they changed their game and their speed and skill, and they're a reflection of this league. The league got better, the national program is better, and as hockey in the UK, I think, is at an all-time high. In my opinion, it's better than the Super League ever was now. The Super League it used to be always a comparison, the Super League was better. The Elite League's way better now, way better to watch, way more fans, way more interaction. It's a way better league now.
Okay, I thank you, gents, for your honesty on that. Back to the floor, guys. Lady at the front, and then comes the gentleman there.
Following on from the Challenge Cup question, playoffs, the contract has been clear. Will it be staying here, or would you consider shifting it to another?
Okay, just for everyone who didn't hear at the back, apparently I didn't know this, the contract is up this year for the Nottingham playoffs. Is it likely to stay here? Is there any consideration for an alternative venue?
It's the best venue to host it at. Like, it makes sense. Like, the only other options are Sheffield or Belfast, right? Well, Belfast, are all of you guys going to travel over to Belfast? Are 5,000 people going to find their way across to Belfast? Maybe once every 5 years you might. You wouldn't do it every year. And but it's an interesting option. But Sheffield, would Sheffield work? No, because Sheffield Arena is not city center. It's not a great location for hotels. The thing that works about this is this city's taken over by hockey jerseys all weekend long. You can walk around town, and every little hotel, we all have our little places that we stay every year, right? And I think it works as a venue right now. I think I would love to see it go to Belfast one year, like maybe once every 4 years or something like that. But as far as fit for purpose, I think this is a great location for it. I don't think Sheffield's an option. Braehead is not an option. It's too small. Cardiff's too small. It has to be in a big venue, and there's only 3 of them. So.
Just before we come to you, so Cory, can I get a quick follow-up on that? There was always moans and groans from everybody in the league whenever Nottingham qualified for the Final Four that it was an unfair advantage. It wasn't last night, but that's by the by. As coach of the Nottingham Panthers, is that a myth? Is that true? You guys slept in you didn't all sleep in the same beds. You slept in your same houses and what have you. You were in the same locker room. Is it an advantage for the Nottingham Panthers when they qualify for the Final Four and play it here?
I would guess a slight advantage. Yeah, I mean you're comfortable in the facility. You're used to the bounces on the boards, all these kind of things. But at the end of the day, like when you get into a one-off game where you're advancing or not advancing, anything can happen. It's a coin flip. You just have to go out and play well. And thankfully, when I was in charge, we played well.
Yeah, that was great. I love that line. How many playoff trophies? 3, 4? How many playoff trophies? 3, 4? How many did you win?
Way more than that.
More than that? We'll count it out later. There was a gentleman here who had a question. Yes, in the devil shirt.
I was just going to say, do you think Britain will stay up in the top 8 this year?
Well, this is a question for the 2 gentlemen at the end, and senior is passing it to assistant.
Depends on the coaching.
The coaching is everything. Will GB, and it's a fantastic achievement, which I think we should recognize just to be there, and these guys were a huge part of that. But you guys are professionals. The players go in there professionals. Yes, we're huge underdogs, but no one goes there just to make up the numbers. What can GB realistically achieve in May?
Well, I don't think there's anything to fear because it's what it is. It's a great experience, and the guys should go there and enjoy it. They came through. Some of those guys have been a long year in that program. Your Matthew Myerses and everybody, and Jono, and you get the new brigade that come in, and probably the core of 10 or 12 guys that came through with me from the under-16s. But can they stay up? Well, why not? Like, why can't they stay up? Why can't they give France a game? Why can't they surprise somebody early? 1 point kept the team up last year. Can this team stay up? Everybody thought this team was going to get relegated last year, and I think people underestimate what an achievement those 22 guys put in last year in that tournament. There were some really good teams. That Hungarian team, the Kazakhstan team, the Italians. They're very, very good teams. I get a real feeling there could be a surprise over there. I think the character within the team and the camaraderie and how they come together, and it's probably I mean, I coach in this league, and Cory has, Todd's here, but they guys get excited for this tournament. You know, if Todd speaks to the boys going down there, they're pretty pumped. You know, they've just played 82 games, and then they're going to go into this, and you think they'd be tired. They find another level and another edge, and I know right now when I speak to them, they're really excited. You know. And, you know, I guess you dare to dream again and hope something works for us and hope we get goaltending a couple of games and then we take our chances and hopefully, like every tournament where PP's been good, you know, if where PP's good and you get goaltending, you can easily steal a game, no problem.
And starting with Cory, but both of you, we talk about players wanting to test themselves against the best. I assume it's the same for coaches. You're going up against household names and it's an opportunity for you to test your systems, test where you stand. Cory, you don't want that one? Okay, no, okay.
My boss.
The first thing I always have to do is babysit Cory, right? So this is the first thing. As you're seeing today, in small ways, Cory is a wonderful person, but he has to be put in the box sometimes. Yeah, of course, but we play a certain way, and Cory and I kind of think the same a little bit, and we like to be aggressive all over the ice, and we like to quick transition hockey, you know, and let the guys make decisions. And so we let the guys make decisions and see if they make good decisions and see where it takes us. But a lot of coaching will come down to the PK, PP, face-offs, you know, just little things. You know, Adam Keith's part of that. Keith is a great part of the program now, and the three of us are kind of weird in our own ways, but we get on very well together and we all bring something different, and I think that's what helps the guys. But yeah, I think it's, you know, Freddie Black's here, and he sent me a text the other day, and he sent me a picture of the announced the coaches for Canada, I think it was, and Freddie sent me a picture, and I put something underneath it. I'm not going to say what he put, all right, like, not going to say, no, nothing on you guys, he sent, and can I tell them what I get paid to do, GB? No, that's wrong, isn't it? All right. They make more than we make. But we always have a fabulous time. And I'm pretty sure we're going to learn things about ourselves. You know, and I think, to be honest, I think we've done pretty well with the team, and I think we've prepared them well in every tournament so far. And I think that with the guys and this league has helped GB get better. I've said it many times. I said it after they won the gold medal last year, and I think it's made the coaching better and it's made the players better, and I think it's going to be great to go against those guys and see what we can do.
Nothing to add, Cory? Okay.
Cory's in the box again
Cory's
here
in the
right
box.
now.
Guys, we're not done yet, but I think we all just collectively want to wish Cory, Pete, Adam Keefe, all of the guys going out to Pool A, all the very best of luck. I say we're not down yet. Luke, we're not done yet, are we? No, we've got a little bit of time. Okay, so what do we... one thing I do want to move on to, and Omar, Todd, I'd like to bring you guys back in on this, particularly you, Omar, is sustainability in this league. And I ask this with the greatest respect to Milton Keynes. I think we all kind of fell in love with their fan base and what they've done this year and the atmosphere they bring to every rink. At the moment, it would appear that Milton Keynes aren't in the elite league for next year, and I think that's a crying shame. Omar, first of all, for you, having been in Manchester, now in Dundee, we see Guildford being sustainable at this level. What does it take financially and just in terms of sheer hard work to make a team sustainable and competitive at this level?
I think, personally speaking for Dundee, in Manchester and Hull, you know, it was great learning, you know, especially in Manchester under Neil Russell, that's just there today. You know, I was a player coach, but he gave me a lot of responsibilities, and you know, it was maybe something for me personally speaking that maybe I always wanted to be kind of the business side. I love, like I did my masters. I had a few businesses when I was back home when I was a bit younger in Montreal, and I always wanted to stay in the game on the business side. So hockey's my passion, but I love the business side of it. So long story short, in Dundee, I was passionate to do both. And I think that's maybe something that was needed in Dundee to push. I mean, if you just had a hockey coach in Dundee, to be honest, I think it would have folded 2 years ago. So that's the truth. I mean, this is what I'm passionate about, is to push. And it's unfortunate for Milton Keynes because obviously they have a great set of fans, and you know, they came to Dundee, they were really loud and obviously proud, but I think sustainability is important, but I think it's the drive, how you drive your business. I mean, how you put bums on seats, how you get sponsorship. I look at Todd, how he transformed the whole Cardiff Devils mindset from, was it 5 years ago? Like to now. Now they're annoyed because they don't win the league in the last game of the season when they have a tiebreaker. Oh yeah, sorry Todd to hear that, buddy. You know, hey, big problems, eh? You know, so it's and again in Dundee we're fortunate enough. The last 2 years we increased our attendance 23%, so things are going well. And listen, we know what we are. We're competing against really, really competitive teams and people that spend more, but I always say, well, if they spend more, we got to catch up to them. We got to push again the fan base, the sponsorship, and we have done that the last 2 years. And for us, we're fortunate enough too. The media side of things, there's more brand awareness in Dundee, which was even more than it was in Manchester and Hull. I mean, we're on TV now, reports on a weekly basis, front page of newspapers, radio every 4 or 5 times a day on TFM, which is a big radio station in Dundee. So there's a lot of good things that are going on that will create that sustainability, but we still have to keep up to these guys, you know, to sustain in the league.
Just to follow up on that, Omar, that is fantastic what you're doing there, but does that detract from the hockey side? Can you do the both? I guess you're working, 32-hour days at the moment or something. Are you? How do you balance?
Do you know what I mean? Neil Russell used to work 40 hours.
Neil Russell, okay, quick story here. All right, let's say, so Neil Russell would call me at night. And I was working in Manchester and say, hey, how's it going? Oh, not too bad. I just finished my 19-hour day. I said, don't tell anybody. I left work at 10 o'clock at night. You know, so it was like a lot of sarcasticness. But no, listen, it's a lot of work, but I really enjoy it. It's hard, though, to be honest, but we have a good team in Dundee. It's like off the ice, we had Elliot Shaw that just got promoted to the Glasgow Rangers. So that's good for everybody that works around the league in the marketing aspect to see that there's also growth where you can end up being. And, you know, obviously Neil Russell went to Man City. So those, even on the off-ice structure, it's good to see people that move up in different domains and businesses. And to go back from my side of things, I mean, yeah, it's hard to do both. It's time-consuming, but truth be told, if there's not someone that drives it in Dundee like that, I just don't think it would work. And whether it be me or somebody else, you need somebody to drive it in Dundee to keep it sustainable on and off the ice. Maybe that hurts our performances or the coaching side, but I try to obviously give out tasks to different people, which we have a great team. Like I said, Elliot, we have Mike Ward Jr., we got the owners that do a great job keeping the team. Like the people in Dundee know the Wards. I don't know if there's few people here, but to keep the team in Dundee for 18 years and to, like, Mike Ward does about so much work with the houses, with everything, and he doesn't take a dime out of it, you know? So it's really impressive how we have people there. I don't want to talk about Dundee the whole time, but it's a good setup, and hopefully it keeps going.
Thank you, Omar. And Todd, just a little bit of housekeeping for the league. I know personally you devastated to lose Milton Keynes because, you know, they were there the last game of the season in Cardiff. That fan base is a credit to them. Is that completely dead? Can they come back at any stage? I know, you know, 10 teams in the league would make the fixtures meeting a lot easier, but I assume we want to continue to grow the sport. What's the state of play in terms of clubs in this league, I suppose, next year?
Yeah, I really like the Milton Keynes setup. I think when you think of a franchise, you have to think of venues and crowd bases, and I think the venue in Milton Keynes is a good little rink. Like it's got this great hospitality here. You can probably hold 2,500 people. That's a better venue than a lot of venues in the Elite League. The fans are unbelievable. I love the fans. I mean, if every fan base could inject that much energy when they're in 10th or 11th place, I mean, they're doing the conga line around our rink, and they're down 9-1 or something like that, right? Love them. And it's a shame, because you don't want to see those fans go. And I don't think, the way I like to think about it, and I think, you know, I probably can speak from the board standpoint, we don't want to, that might be parked for a year or two, or who knows, but if there's ownership that's going to come along, hopefully that's a team in the next year or two or something like that. You don't want to lose that venue, you don't want to lose that fan base, and it's a shame. And I can't say it, I don't have any knowledge of it or anything, but I highly doubt that's the last Elite League hockey we see in Milton Keynes. So,
I think we'd all be pleased with that. So, yes, hopefully we'll have hockey back in Milton Keynes at the top level very, very soon. We're going into the final stages of this, guys, so back to the floor for any pressing questions that haven't been asked yet.
Oh, Neil Black has a question.
Mr. Black at the far end.
I'd like to start with what do they think about Cory, especially in Germany, the experience of 3 points for a win or a regulation win?
This is a good question. 3 points for a win, which obviously in the British culture, maybe the football culture, works quite well and gives teams a lot to play for. 3 points for a win, what are your feelings on it?
I think it's a fantastic system, to be honest. I mean, if you're ever in a title-chasing hunt, and let's say Belfast and Dundee were leading the league, and those two are playing a game, and we're chasing them, and you see that game being split and somebody winning in overtime, you're just like, oh. You know, the beauty about the 3-point system is that there's 3 points up for grabs. That's it. Okay, it's not like, okay, well, you get 2 for a win and you get 1 for a loss, or if you want to do that, then it should be, okay, whoever wins gets 2. That's it. Final. 2 points per game. But the 3-point system is unique, and it's good because if it does go into overtime, there's still only 3 points up for grabs. So I'm not sure what it would have worked out with, but I think Belfast. Yeah. So I just think it's like, especially since your football kind of mentality, at least like a regulation win seems to mean more to fans, and I know it means a lot more to Mr. Black. To me as a hockey coach, winning in overtime is the exact same thing as winning a regulation game. That's just how I was growing. You either win or you don't win. So I just think it's a true measure. If you can win in regulation, it's a true measure of who the best team is. You get 3 points, cool, you win.
As a Cardiff City fan, we need it to be 6 points for a win at the moment. Guys, any just quick follow-ups on that? Your 3 points for a win, Pete? Something you might be in favour of?
Yeah, I quite like it because I think we were pretty good regulation for a long time, and I think that would maybe gave us a few more points. I don't see if you win in I think more teams would push harder to try and get a win in regulation as well. And some games you're closing out, and you can see teams just waiting for overtime. I think in some games 4 or 5 minutes to go, and there's no real push for it. And I think if you know you can close out and you can get an extra point, I think guys would start pushing that a little bit extra to try and get the extra point. Because, I mean, Todd said 2 weeks to go, you think Belfast would have done it up, it would have been over. Like it's, yeah, I think that's a game changer. I think I would do it 100%. I know they talked about it 4 years ago in the EPL, and the answer was they were scared Guildford would go too far ahead. Well, who cares? Because if the best teams go far ahead because they win in regulation, they deserve to be further ahead. I don't see what's wrong with that, and I think it would sort the middle of the pack out a little bit more as well. It maybe open it up a little bit.
I think it might change even, like, let's say Cardiff play us, Dundee, and they need 3 points, obviously, because all these big teams, they look at it, and I think they look at like Dundee's, and they want to get the full points. They want to get the win. So maybe they'll play even a more aggressive game. And because we've lost 12 games in overtime this year. Like, we lost a point. But ultimately, if it goes back to that system, like Cory said, there's 3 points that every game a team's going to get. And maybe there's going to be a different mindset when these big teams are competing for the championship. Let's say at the end of the year, they might push in regulation to pick up that extra point. So I think the mindset would maybe change pretty much, I guess, everywhere, because even the middle pack points will be so vital. So I think it'd be interesting to see for sure.
Todd, just a yes, no? Is it on the table for discussion?
That'll be our next update from the next board meeting.
Okay.
There'll be a video of Mr. Black explaining that we've just voted in the 3-point system. So there's your hint for the next board meeting.
What are we looking at? It's around about 5 minutes to the close on this. Any more pressing questions? Any more final flings? Gentleman in the middle there, yes?
Just following up on the discussion about Milton Keynes, there's been a lot of talk about London teams and the silver conference in the league. Is there any progress on that?
This one might be one for Mr. Black. Again, London and Tilburg coming into the league. Any truth? I've seen those floating around on social media.
Well, I have some information. I just have to get the nod from the boss over there. Yeah? Okay. So Tilburg Trappers, who are playing in the DL3, do they call it the DL3 or do they call it to EL3, and they win it every year. They win it every year. And so they approached us about joining our league. I think we were sort of a backup plan if they didn't get back into that league, because I think that league is kind of getting sick of them winning it all the time. I don't think they're quite at the level to play in our league, but the logistics of going over there, like it sounds simple. Oh, it's just another, instead of going to Belfast, you're flying to Amsterdam and driving 3 hours. But logistically, I think it just wouldn't work. So they came and talked to us, and we actually were pretty open to it. And then I think they got accepted back into the league, so they stayed where they are. The London team is on the cards, hopefully. Mr. Black, you guys all know, has the rights to the London team. And that's an ongoing process. There's a lot of work to be done. Wembley Arena needs to put an ice pad in, all that kind of stuff. But there's been a lot of work, and I'm assuming a lot of money spent already on getting it to that point. I think it's an eventuality. It's just when. You know, is it 2 years down the line, 3 years, 4 years? I think as a league, the moment we get a franchise in London, things change dramatically. Like it's a lot easier to talk massive TV deals or massive sponsorship when you're based in the capital. Everything in the UK goes through London, and I think it'd be a great thing to have a team in London.
Agree to that. Was there one more hand I saw slightly further back, or did I just? No, I just made that up. Anybody else, guys? Yes, sir, at the front.
Can I just follow up on the comments about Milton Keynes? We haven't seen an official statement come from the Elite League yet. There's a number of people interested in trying to get something together for the next season. Is that something that's dead in the water, or is that an opportunity that remains open?
Just to clarify the question, sorry for everyone at the back. And again, I've seen those stories as well, that there are interested parties. The door remains open, and is the Elite League going to take a, I suppose, public position on it?
I guess the problem with the way it was handled was we found out when you found out, right? As a league, I think they announced it on a weekend, maybe it was the last weekend of the year or the weekend before, and I'm getting ready for a game and someone says, oh, Milton Keynes have put out a statement that they're dropping down a league. Thanks for the heads up, Milton Keynes. But as far as interested parties, it's from sitting on this side, and Omar probably has more of an idea than the other two because they've not been as involved in the business side of things, but it's an expensive thing to get into. It's not all about just like, there's an interested party, a few of us will throw in a couple £1,000 each and rally the troops, and all of a sudden the season ticket money comes in, because that happened in Milton Keynes already, right? Like strong ownership and dedicated ownership is what makes it sustainable. He talked about Dundee Stars being in this league, being in Dundee for 18 years, right? I know what it's like. I always say, and I remember I used to say it to Neil. Neil keeps getting the point. Neil Russell. But we used to always say to Neil, there always has to be someone that you can call, because inevitably when you're running a business, there always has to be someone on the phone when you need money. And in hockey, thank goodness we're not in Switzerland or Germany or Austria, where that phone call might be, hey, I need another £5 million to get through this season, or 5 million euros. For us, but you might have to make a phone call, hey, I need 50 grand to get through January. And there has to be someone on the end of the line. And if a group of fans all think that, you know, we'll each throw in 5 grand and there'll be 10 of us, we'll have 50 grand in the bank and start it up, and then we'll get some season ticket money. Whatever you think it costs to run a team, probably double it, and then add VAT. So, because lots of people forget about VAT. And I've seen business plans that are so far-fetched and not even sustainable. And then I've seen ones drilled down that you think this might work, right? But whatever you think, like we went into Cardiff, we had all the numbers from the year before, all the numbers that they did, they were completely made up. It was just pie in the sky numbers, right? So we had to start from scratch, and we were lucky that we had a really good fan base that would come back, but they weren't coming. It's not like we had 1,500 people showing up every week. We had to build that, right? But they at least cared, and that's what Milton Keynes has. Milton Keynes has a good fan base. Would I rather see a team in Milton Keynes or a random city that wants to build a rink? No, Milton Keynes, because you at least, you know that if you open the doors next week for an Elite League team, 600-700 people are in, because they love the team, they love the Lightning, and they love seeing top-level ice hockey. But don't ever think it's not really expensive to get into. It is.
Okay. Just with the travel, everything this year, you know. Yeah. Well, I was just saying to Todd that just the travel, obviously our equipment budget for us, everything is so much more expensive, and people obviously Brexit too made an effect, direct effect. So I think there was more costs for everything this season, especially there was more condensement of games as well. So, I mean, that means that people might pick and choose, but at the same time, there's more cost, like I said, for every single thing, from ITCs to flights to, like, it's actually ridiculous to be fair.
Can I just add something to this?
Certainly.
Obviously, I was in Milton Keynes for 3 years until last year, and I went to work there for Mike Petrus. Mike Petrus is a big businessman, and he had the fallback. So Milton Keynes, when the EPL grew in 2 years, to basically go head-to-head with Guildford, and then Telford tried to. Telford, an example of mismanagement in hockey, you know, and it's a different level, but they threw money at it and it went bust. All right, done. Milton Keynes, for me, is with the right stability and the right ownership, the right people, could easily become a middle-of-the-table team very, very quickly. It's a fantastic city, it's a business hub, and it's got a great fan base. Like, the fan base there is sensational. You know, they're with their club all the way, but it's a very difficult situation to be in something like that if it's not ran right. You know, and it's not worth, for the stability that Todd, Mr. Black, Tony Smith, all these people that run the clubs have done in this league. It has to be done right, just for the league and for Milton Keynes, but there'll never be hockey there. Because if they come in and do it again, I don't think it will work ever again. But I honestly think someone will take Milton Keynes over. I think it's a great opportunity for the right person. And you know, they are sensational fans. Like, that last game I was there in Cardiff that night was something ridiculous. You know, it was amazing. But I think it's easy. People ask me this weekend here, Milton Keynes fans, do you think there's going to be a team? And I'm like, I hope you get the right person to run it, because it'll just go boom. And it just shows you people coming in that thought they had the money, they knew what they were doing. You know, there was a solid EPL club that was ran right. You know, it was solid. Like, by the end of last year in the EPL, it was ready to go to the next level. It was a business. You know, there was 2,200 people every week. It was there. It was rolling along. But it just shows you how quick, if not ran right. And the other thing I was thinking when Todd and Pacha are talking is, most of these hockey clubs have 6, 7 people running them. Some have 4. You know, and you guys come and support it, and that's awesome. But I think the work that he probably puts in as many hours as he does. You know, these guys, the hours they put in is absolutely insane. And from the outside, people don't see that. So what a club like Milton Keynes needs is 4 people like that again to try and build it up and make it strong again. And if Todd says that's in a year, then you should be pumped. You get back in the league and you get to watch good hockey and nothing goes away.
Okay. So we've all got a... Well said. Round of applause there from Cory. If Cory's leading it, we got to clap it. Okay. We got a 3rd and 4th place game to get to, so let's finish on something cliched and simple. Omar, Pacha mentioned Brexit there, so that's pretty simple. Let's do that in 5 minutes. I love that. Was a great. Yeah, that was on the list not to mention Brexit. Okay, we've got to get. And I'll start with Cory on this. And
Don't seem too excited.
You know, I know Todd is the biased member on this panel. We've got the final today that, allegiances aside, maybe it's the final the season deserved between the 2 top teams. Belfast Giants ranked 1, Cardiff Devils ranked 2. You couldn't really separate them on points. We've got 3 excellent coaches here and a pretty good GM. What separates these teams today? What are the keys to victory today if you were on one of those benches, Cory?
So I haven't seen them enough, to be honest. I mean, Belfast looks skilled and fast, and Cardiff's a little bit bigger. But I mean, they're both. I know both coaches really well, and they both do a great job. So it's just, you know, these games come down a lot to goaltending, special teams, goaltending, special teams. Usually the top guys just cancel each other out. So one goaltender has a good night, maybe a power play gets going, and you know that's the difference.
Who's your pick?
I don't care either way.
I love the honesty. If you see him in the second period, stop him, because he might not be here for the 3rd. Pete, break it down for us. What's going to be the difference today?
I think Bouncy has to play today. You know, he's playing against the best goalie in the league, and I think Bouncy can be the best goalie in the league as well in a lot of days. So if he plays, then it's tight. You know, I'm good friends with Adam Keith, and I'd love to see him personally as a friend do well, But I think there's two desperate hockey clubs there, one trying to win everything and one making sure they won something, and I think it'll be a barn burner. I thought Cardiff were electric yesterday. That's the best I've seen them for a little while. They look lively again. I think Cardiff will win.
There we go. There was a gasp there. Omar, anything you would do to tip the tables in this game if you were a coach today? And yeah, who's your pick?
I don't know. I think it's going to be one of the most exciting playoff games in the recent years because, like Pete said, both teams have something really to play for. I don't know. It's hard to say because you can't really bet against Joey Martin. If I was Nottingham Panthers, I'd go after Joey Martin. That's all I said. That's all I said. Neil in the back. If I was him, honestly, Charles Linglet too, unbelievable. Those two guys. I watched the game last week, and I don't know. I just have this obsession for Joey Martin. So I hopefully can maybe cut that out because that can be weird. He's unbelievable. But you know what though? I think it'd be a good story for maybe even Belfast. I like Pescarani, so listen, if I had to pick a team today, obviously a bit like Cory, I don't really care. I just want to watch a good hockey game, but maybe the Belfast story to win the Grand Slam, well, I guess it's a Grand Slam, would be a good story, but if not, well, Cardiff is an unbelievable team, and you saw finishing on points equal, so I don't know.
There's a fence over there you can sit on.
Very diplomatic. Todd
Who did you think? Who did you think?
He said Cardiff.
Okay, I'll say Belfast. There you go.
Todd, do you care to comment on the rumors?
20 pounds.
Do you care to comment on the rumors that Joey Martin and Charles Linglet going to Nottingham? What do you think is going to happen in today's game?
Look,
and where are you going to watch it from? Where's the superstition
Just
today?
on the creepy man crush that Omar Pacha has on Joey Martin. One of our owners, Brian Parker, absolutely loves Joey Martin, and we have like a weekly or bi-weekly conference call, and every time he basically chants, Joey, Joey, Joey. And if you ever say anything bad, like I could say like, oh man, Fournier, what a season. He's the best player we have. No, Todd, he's the second best player we have. Because we have Joey Martin and then him. And also every time he sees Joey, he chants Joey, Joey. So it's really tough come contract time when Joey comes in and just plays a video from Brian Parker of him cheering for him. So anyways, I also am quite friendly with Adam Keefe, but I also don't want him to win. So I'm also pretty friendly with Andrew Lord. So I'm going to go with the Cardiff Devils to win 3-2.
There we go. Guys, I think you'll agree it's been a fantastic panel today. First of all, thank you to the Saltbox for having it, all the guys behind the scenes who have set it up, you for turning up and making it what it is. But ladies and gentlemen, Cory Neilson, Pete Russell, Omar Pacha, and Todd Kelman. Let's go and enjoy a great day of hockey. Thank you.